All right, I'm trying to get a look at this Fumoto valve that I put on my Hemi. This is the 106N, N as in Nancy, because it's got the longer nipple on it. And you can see that it fits perfect. And if I got up under there and looked, you would see that the nipple actually comes out over the sway bar just a little bit. So this is a perfect fit, because now I can put my drain hose on that nipple and I won't ever get oil all over my sway bar again. So if you guys are looking for something to make your oil changes a little easier, this Fumoto valve 106N is the ticket. Now, it doesn't do anything for that pain in the ass oil filter location, but at least it makes this part easier. So we are looking at the rear wheel well of the Ram 1500. And you notice that it is really dirty. So if you've been following this channel for a long time now, you know that over and over and over again, I talk about how we live out on rural gravel roads. And unfortunately, that means that you get a lot of gravel being thrown up onto your truck. You also get a lot of gravel dust and grime and nastiness. And you can see how here lately we actually had a little bit of rain finally, and it got all this nastiness up in the truck. Now, on the 4th gen trucks, it seemed like they all came with the full wheel well liners. But on these 5th gens, it is an option. Imagine that. And this one obviously doesn't have the full ones. It does have these little partial ones. So, like in the front and in the rear, you get a little bit of coverage, but there's nothing up here. And if you look up in here, there's like a pocket, so stuff coming off of the tire can go up and over this and get down in there. Same thing up here, there's like pockets where stuff can get trapped up in there. So I decided that I needed to do something about this, and I went ahead and ordered a set of the full wheelhouse liners, which are, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think they're still a $95 option. So if you're ordering a new truck, I highly recommend you go ahead and do it. But I was able to find some online thanks to a buddy of mine who tipped me on this. I found a set of them online for $123, which is just slightly more than the factory option, delivered for free. So went ahead and bought some, and I'm going to pop those in here today and show you how easy it is. All right, so to begin this project, got 8mm screws that go all the way around the fender flare here. You got an 8mm screw in there. So if you take these 1, 2, 3, looks like, yeah, I think just these 3 8mm out, and then this 8mm out. So 4 total. It looks like this front 1/3 shield will just come right out. And then on the back, you've got a 10mm bolt in there, and then 3 or 4 8mm in the fender flare. But the back is a little bit different because it's actually a 2-piece design. There's the part you can see, and then behind that is another layer sandwiched to it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to actually take my mud flap off, and this little plastic piece right here has to come off also to make access to get in there and get this out. So this thing here has a screw on the inside here, but it also has 2 plastic clips that pop up into the sheet metal of the truck. So you're going to want one of those little cat claw tools to go in there and gently pry that out, because if you go yanking on it, you're probably going to break those clips. And I would say that those specific clips are probably hard to source. Probably would have to go back to the dealership and pay who knows what to get a couple of new ones. So I'm going to try and get this piece off very gently. I'm going to go ahead and use my electric ratchet, because that'll speed things up a lot, and start taking out these 8mm screws around the fender flare. And then we'll take these 2 back here under the bed out and start removing these pieces. Once you get in here, you know, if you're mechanically inclined at all, you know, once you get in here, look at this, you'll see that it's pretty straightforward. The only part at all that's somewhat difficult is just this piece right here. But like I said, if you've got the proper tool to get in there and release those clips, I don't think that's going to be a big deal either. And then once we get this rear one out, that's 2 pieces, we have to unsandwich them. So we're going to take a drill bit and hit those little plastic rivets that hold the 2 pieces together. And we're going to take that back layer off so that we can reuse it, because the front layer is one that's obviously getting replaced by the full liner. So let's get to it. So you guys know that this electric ratchet is my favorite tool in the world. It just makes things so much faster, especially when you're dealing with something like this where you've got a lot of little screws. You can just go in there and zip them right off. Except I made a boo-boo and grabbed the wrong socket. Let me try something different. That was a 9mm. And I just told you that you need an 8mm. So let's try an 8mm. It happens. Oh, that's a lot better. See there? So you're going to have several of these. Now, the fender flare on these Laramies is also held in by a whole lot of plastic push rivets. So once you take these screws out, you don't have to worry about the fender flare falling off, because it should stay in place. And so you don't, like I said, you don't have to worry about that. So see, that's already loose. And then we got this one back here in the back. And just like that, the front one is loose and ready to come out. Gonna have to hit it a little more. And there we go. Now I'm gonna get the camera over here. Well, you can probably see it from there. See how much dirt and dust is in there? I mean, that's terrible. And look how dirty the backside of this thing is. Gravel dust all year long. I mean, this is just worthless. Why, Ram, why do you even bother with this? Complete waste of time. It would be, if you're not going to put full liners in the truck at the factory, don't put anything in there, because at least like this, you can get in there and wash all the dirt out after it gets dirty, you know? I don't know why they bothered putting these little 1/3 liners in there. But anyway, so the front part's out. Now we've got to get to the harder part, which is the rear one here. So let me move the camera around. I should have done this before I put my mud flaps on here, because this was actually a little bit of a chore. I had to make myself a little bit of a provision here to put these on, because obviously these are not factory. So I had to kind of, you know, figure out how I was going to do that. And it required some extra hardware and drilling holes and things. And, you know, it took me some time. So I wish that I had done this after I put these liners in here. Live and learn, live and learn. That one there was a little tough, probably because it was in that rubber from the mud flap. Something else that might be really handy is if you're going to be doing this in like waves, like you're not going to complete the job necessarily, you're just going to do parts and pieces. You might want to take your hardware like this and put it in a Ziploc bag or something so you don't lose those, because you definitely don't want to lose them. So there's 2, and then we've got this third one here. Looks like I'm going to have to go ahead and take out these lower 2. There's a whole bunch grouped together down here at the bottom. All right. And I think this very lower one down here, this black plastic piece I was talking about earlier, I think that very bottom 8mm, it looks like, is the one that secures that plastic piece to the sheet metal. So we got to take that one out also. And I was worried about this. It would be a lot easier to do this if you took the wheel and tire off of the truck, but I was going to try to avoid having to do that. All right, so all of these that we need to get out are out for now. Actually, we are going to have to take these 3 out also, because when you put the new liner in, it's going to use these 3, but we'll get to that in a minute. Right now, we just took these out, and then we got this 10mm over here. So let me go grab a 10mm socket. If I can locate one, there it is. And then here in just a moment, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about with the 2-piece design they've got on this thing. Uh-oh. There for a minute, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get the head of the electric ratchet in there to get to this one. All right, so there's the 10mm. So now this one is loose right here, except for the one down here at the bottom. So let me get the camera and move it around here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about on this piece underneath the truck. That's, like I said, the only part that's kind of difficult. Okay, so because of the way the lighting is, I'm going to show you this on the passenger side of the truck. And it's going to be the same on both sides, but I'm going to go ahead and just show you this on the passenger side. So we're back here behind the axle and the tire. You can see the mud flap there. So there's those plastic clips. There's one right there, and then there's another one right here. All right, guys, so now that I have the driver's side one out that I was working on, you can see that it's now off the truck. Let me show you what actually ended up working the best. So these are what you call Christmas tree clips. And the best thing to do is to come up on top of them with a set of pliers, just like this, and squeeze those tabs together while you're putting pressure downward on it, and it'll pop right out. Same thing for this one in the front. Just get on that Christmas tree clip, squeeze it, and then you can see where my fingers were. I was able to pull it right out without breaking them. So that's the way to do those guys. And then you have that one screw here in the front. That's all there is to it. And now we can get in here and get to this last screw. Let me go up under the truck again. You can see that last screw right there. And now that we got this bottom piece off, we can get to it right here. So that's why we had to take that part off. All right, so I finally got the rear section out, and now you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's sandwiched together. You got 2 pieces. You got the back piece and you got the front piece, which is what we're going to replace with the full liner. And you can kind of see these little, I don't even know if you want to call them rivets, but there's just a couple of little places here, one down here, where they kind of, well, basically riveted the 2 pieces together. So we're just going to take a drill bit and just hit these. You don't have to drill all the way through, just enough to run that out so it'll fall off. And we'll be able to reuse this back piece. Now, keep in mind you've got these metal clips here that are going to be reused in various places as well. So let me go ahead and disassemble this, and we'll be ready to put the new liner back in. All right, so it's getting dark and late on me, but I got the driver's side done. You can see how good it looks. Now there's one clip right there that you're gonna need to put on there, and if your set of liners doesn't come with the hardware, you're gonna have to source that one. Thankfully mine did, so I'm gonna get under there and pop that one on now. And then these 3 clips right here, you can see where the top of the tire is directly up These three, you're going to have to probably take the clips out of there if you got a Laramie like I do. If you don't have one that's already got the flares on it, you may not have to worry about that. But yeah, basically you just pop it in place. Now this panel back here in the back, remember that we took out and unsandwiched it. You're going to put the stiffer part of that back in before you put the new full liner in. And then that's pretty much all there is to it. Tomorrow when the sun comes back up, we'll do the passenger side and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so you guys remember this black piece back here, back there on the rear of the bed. Here's a kind of a picture of it. And you remember that the Christmas tree clips were right on top there. Well, I ended up breaking one of them. Got three of them out pretty nicely, but one of them broke. So what I ended up doing is just, I had some of these left over on my truck because my truck came with fender flares already on it, which meant that I already had several of these clips up in there that I had to remove to put the full liners in. So I had some spares, and I just used one of these clips and one of these screws in place of the Christmas tree clip. Now, you won't be able to slide this on like you normally would, but you can just set this up on top of the sheet metal there, and that'll give the screw something to run up into. You'll have to hold this with your fingers as you're tightening the screw, but that worked perfectly in place of the Christmas tree clip back here. Woke up this morning to a nice, lovely, rainy morning, but I just wanted to show you that I did get them completed and they look fantastic. And look how much more coverage you do get. I mean, the coil spring assembly, the top of the shock mount, the wiring harnesses, there's all kinds of stuff up in there. On the driver's side, you got your fuel filler neck and all that stuff up in there. And now all of that is protected from the elements. You don't get gravel and road salt in the wintertime and all that stuff thrown up onto those components. So these full liners do really do a good job. It's a little bit tough to get them in there, but they do make them kind of pliable. You've probably noticed that the material is kind of a flimsy material, but the thing about that is it allows you to get it up in there and maneuver it around a lot more easily. If you buy the aftermarket ones that are real thick and sturdy, it can be quite difficult to get them up in there. So there's an advantage to these factory ones being a little bit flimsy, but it is a tough material. I mean, you're not going to just split it and break it very easily. It's a rather tough material. So, it'll hold up great. And like I said, it does a good job. So that's pretty much the procedure to do this. And I highly recommend it. $120. It goes a long way to protecting your truck, especially if you live in an area where you get a lot of snow in the wintertime. So that's all that I've got for now, guys. We'll be doing some more projects in the near future when the weather straightens back up a little bit. But honestly, I am really glad to see the rain. We definitely needed the rain.